Good evening, everybody, and welcome to an ASR special. Yep, this is something that, well, I've never done before, Rhodey's never done before, but the great man Lewis Wedding had done on multiple occasions, and, well, you know what, we decided we were actually going to relive the memories of Lewis Wedding, not in the same fashion that he did, but with our own little spin on it. So we might not be commentating or broadcasting the development series on the Outworld Broadcasting channel this year. We're going to be doing the Supercars one, but that doesn't stop us from giving all the development series drivers a bit of a look at their choice of colours for this year and point out the good, the bad and the downright ugly. Rhodey, I guess that's a fair assumption, isn't it? Or a fair summation of what we're about to do?
It is, yeah. Look, every year we seem to be doing better and better with the ASR liveries, but there is always one or two that maybe don't quite hit the bar mark. But generally speaking, I see a lot of sim racing league liveries, and the average for the ASR app is definitely amongst the highest. But we had a good chance to look at all 30 development series entries. We've managed to fill the grid for this year before the season's even started. There's also a few people that have already submitted alts, so a couple of Nissans that have alternate liveries, and one Ford Falcon is also running an alternate livery, or has an alternate livery prepared as of round one, although we will see more of those coming across the season. We won't be doing a roast every time a new livery comes, because the way that liveries come up in Dev 2 is a good chance to new one or two for every round of the year. But it's a good chance to get in at the ground floor and see what liveries look like, and we'll probably be back again in a week or so's time to look at the Supercars liveries.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we might do the Supercars one. We'll probably have to be after development series night's over, to be honest with you. Bit of unfortunate circumstances with having to push the round back a week. It does give us a bit of time to do this, but we do know there's a bit of stuff going on in far north, up in Queensland at the moment, northern New South Wales. I myself was very fortunate. I was there from Friday last week, got out on Wednesday night. I was actually scheduled to fly out Thursday, and I got worried when I saw that they started to close the Gold Coast airport and a bunch of things, but very thankful to be home. Very, very worried about a lot of people up there, a lot of work colleagues that have got to batten down the hatches, coupled directly in the firing line. The customer that I just went live with, right smack in the path in the Glasshouse Mountains. So bit of a concern for some of those, but it's a bit of unprecedented times. We do want to say we are thinking of a lot of people up there at the moment. We do have some ASR alumni who are up there, and we hope to God that you guys don't get hit, and if you do get hit, then you don't have a huge amount of damage to clean up. And to you and your friends, please stay safe, listen to the authorities, and just prepare and look after yourselves and each other as best you can. There are some things in life that are a lot more important than anything else, and family and your own safety is one of them. All right, let's get stuck into it. So we're going to start by looking at the Super 2 field, and now you can see there just on your screen, you can see that we have started to prepare all of the tracks that are going on for this year. There is one track that of course is missing, which is going to be the international round track. That's a little while away, so we don't have much to report on that one just yet. In years gone past, we have put it out to a vote. This year I think we will be, the admin team will be deciding what that track is going to be, but more on that one when we get a little bit closer to the occasion. Now we're just going to go top to bottom here. If you can't see, just based on where the webcam is out of sight, there is the list of the different cars that are there, and we're just going to go in chronological order from team names. So for the A's in Super 2, that means we start with the Ford Mustangs, because Ford before Holden in terms of F before H, and then the first team out of the gate is going to be the APK Sim Sports number 23, which belongs to Matt Cecil. And here we are. Let's make a start here. So to me, Rhodey, first impression for me is gone NASCAR style, big number on the side, in highlight. And similar colours to what he's carried before when he ran last year in the Ford FGX in the Super 3 in the development series. Just a slightly different shade of blue, it looks like.
Yep.
Just having a bit of my first initial impressions. The logo's a little bit big. Probably need to be a hair smaller. Not too much smaller, just a little bit smaller. And rear Australian Paramedical College, probably not centred on the rear end plates, probably need to be a little bit more centred and just in a little bit more proportional position. Love the tribute to cancer, very, very nice.
on the car, yeah.
Fairly good on the back. Again, the Napa Auto Care probably just needs to be a little bit more centered, just so there's got a little bit of room between the logos on either side, the PPG logos on either side. Hasn't overdone it with the logos, which is good. Like, haven't painted every square inch of the car. Oh yeah, we love the new Castrol logo, don't we? So again, just a little bit too close to the edges. Probably need to be a touch smaller. But look, on the whole, it's actually not a bad livery. I actually think it looks good. The colour scheme's good. I really do like the colour scheme. But there are just a couple of minor things I think there that need to tie up. And look, if I'm honest with you, it's good that people have listened to the Lewis wedding roasts of years gone past and have taken some things on board. Actually, I just noticed as well that the ASR logo's been blacked out there as well, so that's an interesting touch.
That is, yeah. So this was actually painted full matte by Termo. Matt did actually come to me at one point. He was going to run one of the PBF cars this year for a little bit. Unfortunately, things didn't quite work out. But he did send me a NASCAR livery as a base to work. I can't remember exactly which one it was. It probably would have been a Chase Elliott car. But yeah, good to see a bit of a NASCAR touch. The door numbers make it very easy to tell what number the car is. And yeah, it's generally some good logo arrangement. It's a good way to spread logos out that a car is sort of feels it's undersponsored without actually being undersponsored, if that makes sense. Like, the logos are nicely spread across the car, nicely sized. You're right, they're probably a little bit big. I know that's a common feedback that Lewis would give, at least in terms of IRL, in terms of a good thing to look at, I suppose, is every I'm not going to say every self-respecting brand, but most of the brands that have logo guidelines, including their logo guidelines, have a minimum amount of clear space around their logo. And I imagine the Napa logo would probably have a clear space that would be a little bigger than the gap that is between the top of that logo and the bottom of that window.
Oh, yes. So
that's an example of where you'd get in trouble and have to bring that down a little bit. They'd appreciate the size and the exposure, but they still have the rule that you have to have X amount of space around the Napa logo. You're not ultimately misrepresenting their image.
Yeah, so this is probably a bit more appropriate here with what he's done on the bonnet in terms of, there's some good real estate around it.
The one's going to be a lot closer to a more accurate use of the logo.
Yeah. Actually, I just noticed the mirrors as well. Oh dear.
Yeah, I imagine that's probably... I imagine that'll probably just be a consequence of the mapping. More than anything else, maybe just the size not working quite right. I think the answer there is just to shrink it slightly, just to pull it off of the warp area.
The answer for me there would have been to wouldn't have even shrink it. It would have been unobservable. You've either got to put a smaller sponsor there, or you've got to have it completely, gone, like just paint a general colour. Look, I can see that. I know there's some guys that are saying, look, it's he hasn't filled a lot of the car. You don't actually need to fill the car to make a statement. I think that there was a thing in mind about why he's gone this way, and it's not bad. It's he's gone that way because he wants to make it look like the NASCAR style kind of thing, which usually only has one primary sponsor, but then they normally have all these ad boards on the front corner here, and I just like the fact he's taken that off, or not even considered doing something like that. But look, on the whole, it's not too bad. It's a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a good place to work from, and look, it's a good livery, I suppose, across the season. If he ends up dragging more sponsors in, he was last year's Super 3 champion. He's probably gonna have a few people knocking on the door. Good a few spots on that livery. He wants to add to it as an ultimate livery across the year.
That's right. We're going to go on to the Beyond racing cars. So the Beyond cars, the first one of which is Sam Dunstall. So Sam has been brought into the league because he races in the same series as Peter Thrower over in the New Zealand series with the BMWs, so it's good to see. Now, you might have seen these cars before, and you would actually be correct. You can see, well, it's all the way back to 2023, because these are the cars that... actually, this one, I think, is the one that... I think it might have been the Peter Thrower car that actually ran in 2023, because it's got the Ken Block tribute on the back. So
both of these cars, both Sam's and Pete's car, are actually they're both running Pete's 2023 livery.
Yep.
The difference is rim color and obviously what's on the windows. So there is a difference, not a lot. Unfortunately, the only files available was the original 4K DDS, so there wasn't an easy way to make too many edits to it. But the base work for this, or the original work for this, was done by Tim Redmond all the way back in 2023. So
yes.
This was sister car to the Huni Kiwi car, from that year, which was running one of the Ken Block Mustang liveries on a Mustang appropriately, and that was Tim's car for the entire year to go with this car.
Yeah. So there's the 17, and if we go back just to give you the changes between the two of them, we go to Pete's car, and Pete's running. So they're the black rims for Pete and the blue rims for Sam. So a little bit easy to observe what's going on. Like the fact that at least we have gone two different directions on two different rims, so, just to make sure that we know who's who. If the broadcast is happening, you'll be able to see it from a distance. I'm getting some word through there might actually be some bootleg broadcasting going on, but hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
So look, there's really not too much we can read into these because this is a livery that has been seen previously. Look, it is a little bit different, sort of cutting the car into thirds, like having 1/3 at the rear and then the front 2/3, is a bit of a unique concept, and it did stand out at the time.
Yep.
And it is something that's, I guess truly sort of Kiwi, which is really good to see. So, the only sort of small criticism there is it just sort of protrudes a little bit into this section here down at the back of the wheel well. Probably wouldn't have been a bad idea just to sort of blacken that whole section off and then just have the rear end, but I can see why they did it. So they were trying to, they just gets a little bit too close there. So, but that's, it's in hindsight now because the livery's better part of nearly 3 years old. So,
absolutely, yeah, like it was, distinctive design then, and it still stands out pretty well. I mean, very rarely have we seen, and this is actually the rear imagery is actually something, a design that's actually used through the Beyond Electrical branding. I believe it's on
yes.
their website and or their Facebook page. So it is actually an official bit of brand iconography as such. It was pretty distinctive to see that sort of design to it, and it is still pretty rare. People haven't touched this sort of stuff quite to this level. That's probably the fix there would just be if you push the lightning bolt back a bit, it would ultimately then block out, or it would sever that little connection in front of the wheel arch, which would then give you an excuse to make the underside of the back of the skirt black rather than, or even a different color maybe rather than that. But yeah, like again, I think this is one of Tim's probably one of Tim's first liveries, so pretty good starting point for Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're moving on to the CRE DevOps. There's two cars for them. So the first one is the number 6. Now this team's had a little bit of a change over the last year. Now again, very similar looking car to what you saw last year for Darryl Callahan. Sorry, I keep forgetting it's the pronunciation for this one. Very similar colours, very similar livery. I think just refined a little bit. Now, I am noticing a couple of things. One, the doors on the side, where the direction the text goes is not running parallel with the black stripe on either side, and that to me is a bit of a fail.
Yes.
The fact that the V on the handle is a little bit obscured lends to the sense of the fact that the logo itself is too big and it's now been cut off by the door banner on the right side there, so that's a bit of a problem for that side. Bit of a different kettle of fish on this side because of where it is. It sits under there, but again doesn't quite follow the painted line on the door, so a little bit of a strike mark against there. CRE on the rear, it's hard to spot because of, that's actually probably the better angle. It's just fractionally near the contour line of the rear crease of the rear quarter panel. So, it could have been maybe a touch smaller, but it fits. We go around to the back. Probably would have been a good idea just to shrink that just a little bit. Maybe just trim a couple of millimeters off there, just so it's a little bit more proportionate. Rest of the bar's okay. Probably didn't need the name twice. I mean, it's yes, there's occasion of so nice you said it twice, but probably once was probably enough. We come around to the front. Thrice.
Yeah. I will say this is somewhat consistent with the Paint Doctor cars in general. They are pretty mono-sponsored in that they normally are just a Paint Doctor car. There'll be a team logo to it. It's. I wouldn't necessarily say that Darryl's a hard man designed for. I think there's another. I think the pair of these were also done by Termo as well. I wouldn't say he's a hard man designed for, but going off of what we've seen for the previous Paint Doctor cars, they really are just Paint Doctor, and maybe one or two other logos. So you're kind of stuck as to what to do to fill out the car. And there is still, as we talked with the Matt Cecil car, there is kind of an idea of a minimum amount of coverage of the car to make it look like an actual race car. And ideally, you'd transfer the name a little differently. I think I'd put the name on the top side of the rear wing and then the underside, so you've got 3 different visual areas. Actually, it is there, so it's there 4 times. So you've got 3 different areas of the car in which you see it from. So it's one of those things, kind of like if sponsors are a bit wonky side to side, one side or the other, they're on different sides, so you don't really notice that they're wonky. In the same way that if you've got 3 different spots, you got one from the front, you got one from the roof side, or one from like helicopter shot, you got one from the rear. It doesn't look like there's 3 on the car, but because there's 2 on the rear, and obviously then the one on the front, they get a little bit overblown. You probably, ideally, if you had like a third brand, even if you just spelled out CRE itself, there is a very long form version of the logo that will probably slot in very nicely where the Callahan is on the front plate, and you'd probably also then use that maybe on the underside of the rear wing.
Brenton Foley in the chat's actually just pointed out the white wheels, which is something we've never seen before, I don't think. It's been, or if we have, it's been a very, very long time since we saw white wheels. They actually work with this car. They work with this car.
They go very well. I think from memory last year, I think the paint doctor car had chrome
and silver chrome or base rims, yes.
Which weren't too bad, but just that little change, like there is a lot of white to this car, but it's not so overpowering with the rims, and maybe just through the break of the colour and the sponsor logos that break up the white. The black roof helps as well, but the white rims are good because they work and they're not overpowering and they're not adding to too much white.
No, that's right. This is, if we're just going back to the Matt Cecil car, if you have a look at where the positioning of the logo on the rear wing end plate is and the size, that's spot on. That's perfect. Almost as perfectly centered as you could get it. Yes, it's a bit hard because you have the down wash here ramp at the front and the back, but you've got the proportions roughly right. So that's a very good job there. That's what you want to go. That's what you want to aim for.
Absolutely.
All right, on to Scott Murrell. Oh, and what a surprise. So, same sponsors as the other car, so keeping in the theme there. Keeping the theme in terms of the actual aesthetics, in terms of positioning of the different tiers, the different colour schemes. They're all sort of in the same position to where the paint doctor car is, so the actual themes are the same, just the colour scheme is a bit different. This is a little bit more appropriate in terms of the direction that the logo follows, so being a bit more closer in terms of where it sits relative to that white stripe, as different to the paint doctor car, whereas like on the other side. Yep, pretty good. So that's excellent.
Yep.
There are some common sponsors there, as we said. Maybe just be a touch smaller on the aftershock, just because it's getting a little bit too close to the top of the crease line there.
I think it's pretty close to, if not, it's just how close it is with the A bleeding over the stylized A bleeding over the top would get in trouble.
Yep. Same deal with the CRE on the back. To me, this authentic collectibles thing here on the back corner is a little bit of an afterthought. It just doesn't look like it belongs.
It would have to come down lower and probably sit parallel with the bottom, or lined up with the bottom of the windows to be a bit more of a C-pillar sponsor. You only really tuck something up there if you already have something below it, and even then you'd probably rotate it to kind of match the horizon rather than being on the angle that it is. Yeah,
I'm actually just going to see if I can just turn my to capture the cursor, just because I haven't got that on there when I'm looking at it. So there we go. Yeah, it needs to sit here, in this little corner here, and it's the same on the other side. Sorry, I was just trying to turn the mouse on so you could actually see where it was. I didn't realise I didn't have it on. But yeah, it needs to sit in that little pillar there. So yeah, that's a fail. Okay. All right, we better read this. Okay, so just so everybody knows, in every other part of Australia, this is Scott Murrell's reference of you. Apparently, Western Australia are wannabe Territorians. You have a lot of outback, so I can see why he says that. Apparently Adelaide's heaps boring and South Australians are heaps boring. They're banana benders in Queensland, but they also do pineapples up there, so it's 6 to 1, half dozen to the other. Apparently all of New South Wales are snobs. Apparently we're yobs down here. I can't read what he says about Tasmanians.
I think it's 2 heads.
Oh, 2 heads. All right.
That one's true.
Whilst you're in the chat, you might have something to say about that. Well, he's talking about Australia. I think he's lucky that New Zealand didn't get a roast over there, although he probably would have said something about sheep, and I think that's probably not appropriate for this stream. So anyway, Onto the front of the car. Yeah, reasonably decent with the Logitech proportions. I mean, there's not much you probably could have done there with the bonnet pins, with where they are, but actually you can still read that from a distance and know what it is, so that's all fine. Look, like the fact that the two team cars have got similar schemes in terms of where the logos are and the stripes are and things like that, but they've gone their own separate ways on colours, which is good. Okay, and we've got to do the NT on the corners. Yeah, I guess I'm a bit 6 to 1, half dozen to the other if they're a little bit too big or not, but I'll probably give that a pass.
I think if anything, like they fit nicely on the line. It kind of almost, it's a tricky thing because they sit nicely on the line, but they almost feel like they should be a bit higher to make a more centralised use of that space. It's a hard one to make a definitive call on.
There's a bit of a common theme I'm noticing at the moment, and there's not a lot happening above the front wheel wells in a lot of the cars we've seen so far. Tim Redman actually just pointed out he feels like this one needs something, but I don't think any of the cars we've seen so far have really got anything in that
I think
area.
The only one that might have, I don't think
maybe the Beyond cars. Maybe I think they
maybe
did.
The Beyond cars. Maybe
Beyond
that's
cars.
only. But yeah, so it is a tricky area to sponsor. There's not a lot of bodywork there, and definitely with when the templates come down to 2048 or 2048, it does tend to, you have to have pretty good block lettering in some spots to be able to read anything. Definitely isn't unsponsorable, like you get a nice long Bridgestone through there or something, but you kind of have to have a sponsor plan for that spot. You can't just slap something in there.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Luke McHugh Racing, the Mustangs here. So we can start with 31, which is Darren Lognan. Okay, so we've got a Chaz Mostert rip-off. Yep. Okay, this one's a little bit busier than some of the other cars we've seen, so let's just start from the side here. So, nod to the Speedway and Sprint car thing with 31 and V for Victoria. See, I do know those things because I did go to the Speedway for quite a while. Right, see a little bit more appropriate position where the LMR logo is. This is where it needed to be on the Scott Marrell car, where that authentic logo needed to be, similar to this thing. It probably just needed to be a fraction smaller. Not too much smaller, just a fraction smaller. We're going with Tarzan's grip. Okay, so he's a fan of super glue and all those sorts of things. Nice on the back, good proportions, as they would say, not bad, good size. One of a handful that's gone on the interior part of the panel. Harley-Davidson on the rear, Optus on top. Probably need, again, Harley-Davidson could have been just a touch, well, could have been a touch smaller, but also there's a major fail there in that the bottom of the logo's been cut off.
Yeah, okay, that would have been maybe mistaken copying the logo across or something.
But
it's right there.
But it's correct there.
So maybe a selection issue in copying it across to the side or something.
Yep. Okay.
That would have been a pretty easy one to not do.
Yep.
Or to not make that mistake on.
Yep.
But, otherwise,
that's a fail.
Fail.
Yep. Agree with the fail. Yeah. There is some contrasting here, and Brenton Foley's beaten me to it. A lot of the white writing, it does at a distance. Like if I put that away like that, yes, you can see. Just make out some of the things that are there, but you know you've got the black outline around some of the white writing on the surfaces that are hard, and you've got to think about it from a colours point of view because certain colours will stand out on top of other colours, and some of them will be lost and disappear into it. So, I can see you're trying to replicate it. Some of the smaller ones, like the Autodesk one. Yes, you're not going to notice that until you're up close, but there are some surfaces that probably just need a little bit of a black outline just to help the cause a little bit.
It's a tricky color, that blue.
It's a color. It's tricky.
Like a black block would also have the same problem on that blue because it's really an in the middle color. But having one alternated by the other as an outline really helps to make that stand out. I know it's something that a lot of designers like to do, and a lot of brand I think will prefer to do it if the option is there to have just a small bit of trim just to really help their logo stand out.
Yep. Good size on the Ryco logo on the lights actually, and again this is something that I think Ryco will probably get annoyed with people stuffing around with the colours of their logos, because I know we went through it when Ryco and Pertec were sponsoring us for in ASR a couple of years ago. Ryco and Penrite. Thank you for the correction.
Yep.
They don't tend to like people mucking around with their logos and their colours, so that's something again to think about. These are both too big. So the SCTR, which I know stands for Southern Cross Trailer Rentals,
Truck rentals.
truck or truck trailer rentals. I know they used to be SCTR for the trucking for trips by trailer parts from a long time ago. That needs to shrink by about 25%. Yep. And the HME logo needs to shrink by about 25% as well. Definitely a little bit too big. And it's also exacerbated by the fact that their size exacerbates the fact that they're too close together. So they definitely needed to shrink. Apart from that, and the Pertec logo, they've actually done a good job here on the front corner. They've just curved that text. Just slightly, a little bit of a curve. It actually... Am I going blind here, Rody, or is it maybe narrower at one end?
I think it's narrower.
Unless it's the template.
I think the issue is that the curve has gone a bit too far. I can see that the curve more or less matches the body line above it, but I think at least on that opposite side, either it does shrink a little, or the curve has just gone a bit too far, and it actually drops away from the bodywork, which is what makes it look like it's narrowing up. Yeah.
All right, let's go and have a look at the sister car, which is Damon McDonald. Now, so Damon's jumped into this after the Paint Doctor cars were together last year, and this is going a very similar direction in terms of the colours. Now, I can tell straight away this colour is a whole lot worse for the white.
Yes.
We were just talking about having black text around the thing like you've done with the Tarzan's grip. This colour with the white disappears into it chronically. So that's so again something that really needs a bit of thought.
I mean, it's just looking at it, like you can just look at that angle, and the first two things that jump in your eyes is you see the Tarzan's grip logo, and then you see the Monster logo, because the white has the bounding black around it, and it just pops so much easier in the AMMT and LMR.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, so that theme should have continued. Not sure what the GL here is on this one. I thought I knew my sprint car numbers and denominations, but I'm not sure what GL stands for here.
Because we're applying state, unless I don't know GL for. I'm not sure where Damon's based. GL
New South Wales, I think. Yeah, no, okay, that'd be GC, but I don't know what GL actually means. So someone in the chat, I think whoever the painter was for this one might, I think it was Dostal or that, might actually jump in there and talk about it. Gladstone. Okay, so we've got
there we go. Actually,
sedans. It's to do with sedans. Yes. Okay. So that makes a bit of sense. Let's check out the rear wing end plate in a minute. That actually wasn't. That's not a bad idea to have the pink inset in that. That's a little bit of a nice touch. Now this one's got it perfectly fine on the bottom of the logo. So yes, that needed to be sorted out, and it's a little bit too close to the edges of the end plate on that one. And same on the other side. So again, could have just shrunk it a little bit. It actually looks like it's actually been. My eyes might be deceiving me, but it looks like it's been compressed slightly. But we'll gloss over that. Same situation as the other front two, with the logos a little bit too big. Monster logo is appropriately sized on the bonnet. I don't know about you, Rody. It's hard to, because you're obviously looking at the car from the front, then you're looking at the car from the top, and then obviously the logo's a couple of different directions. I can see why it's normally done that way.
It's a really tricky one, and you look at IRL liveries as an example, and they don't even have it picked. Generally, I know with like the VEs, the VFs that were done, if you had a Holden logo on the roof, it would always face the bottom of the line would always face the front of the car.
Yeah.
So the implication was that the top of the bonnet was the same as the top of the roof. But even then, you go right to the back of cars, and you'd see sponsors on boot lids that had the same orientation as the bonnet, which made no sense, because from a boot lid, surely that's the point where the rotation flips, but it doesn't for some cars. So it's a tricky one to pick. The roof is normally the crossover point, but it kind of depends per model and ultimately per designer. And I think in Dostal's case, he has done three of the 4 LMR cars. He did his own. I think in this case, he's decided that the roof is where the rear of the car starts.
Yeah. The ASR logo was in a fixed position in this, so the Monster Energy thing is just a little bit too close and probably needed to be separated. What's it actually like on the other side? Let's have a look. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So it's a little bit...
Actually, the pipeline punch had to come down a little bit as well, because it's just getting trimmed by the top of the bottom of the beyond.
Just fractionally there. It's actually worse on that side compared to the other side. So that's
with the rotations and positioning, right?
The tropical theme is an interesting choice. The logo, like for me, I look at that and go, at least the logo's not getting lost in it, because the ones that are on top have all got the black outline, which is great. It gets lost behind these white ones here because they don't have that black backing behind them. But anyway, we keep moving on. Luke McHugh Racing by SES, and this is the Higginson car. Familiar colours for Higginson, or familiar sponsors I should say, not colours, the Autodesk sponsorship. Bit of this one's, the bonnet is the one that stands out for me. This is a bit of an interesting choice considering what we've seen in years gone past, where you try and sort of follow the contour lines and come down to the very edge of the bonnet, or at least all the way to the bumper. They've taken a bit of a different approach there.
It almost, maybe it's the green and the black more than anything else. I'm almost getting Jaguar vibes out of this.
I'm just noticing the Lifeline sponsorship on the thing probably needed to be. I know that what they've done here with having the stripes coming down, with that, it's a bit hard because the Lifeline has not been sort of curved. It probably could have come a bit further forward and curved, or maybe gone to a different spot on the car. It's not following any real contour of that there. This SES logo is way too big. It's the same proportions as the logos that we've seen on the other two sister cars so far, which I think the fourth one's probably going to be the same. Guys, they need to be definitely like at least 25% smaller. Way too big. Autodesk on the front's pretty decent size, and gone with the black around the backing, so that's good. See, the white on the black here makes a little bit of sense, which is good. The LMR logo on the back with the black outline, stands out a little bit. Does get a little bit lost in the white, but when you're up close, it's not such an issue. Everything else on the back's pretty good. Optus on the rear wing. What's on the top? 00 for his car number. And the chrome rims actually work out pretty well with this one, I think, as well. So, on the whole, not too much that needed to be done probably there. There's probably not a lot you could have done with the Autodesk logo. Maybe could have brought it down just a touch, because you've got a lot of black space underneath it, just so you gave a little bit more props to the logo around here. And I mean, if you're going to do what you're doing here with the with where the logo's positioned, you probably need to consider just painting the little corner of the door handle right here, just to match, because that's what they do IRL, so you can actually see it from that angle. See over here, it actually works out pretty well. So you actually go to there's the handle there, and you can see the handle has actually been painted on this side. I mean, yes, up close it looks a bit strange because of the different shadows, but when you sort of zoom out on it, you really don't notice the difference, because it looks like it's just part of the door cup. So on the other side, I would have definitely just painted those two pieces of the door handle, or I would have moved the logos on both sides down a little bit, just so they become a little bit obvious. But yeah, same sort of feedback as the two sister cars before it in the opposite team. With the things that need to change there. And then the 77, which is Ethan Knight, bring him up. Okay, same theme again. Orange and black, actually, not a bad choice of colours. Same situation there, same situation on the front. We're not going to go over those again. Familiar sponsor compared to last year. Black on the white actually is a nice touch, like it actually does stand out again. The SP Tools logo is definitely too big. It's way too close. It actually, fact, I'm going to zoom in here. Stop rotating. It is actually cut off.
Yes.
So that that needs to be shrunk.
Yeah, it's overhanging both up the top and down the bottom.
And down the bottom corner,
it isn't too far off what like Stone Brothers would have had, but I feel like even then there would have been a little bit of space either side, top and bottom of the logo.
Yep. And on top of that, speaking of logos, they're actually keeping with the Harley Davidson's proper colours, where it didn't fit with the other two cars. That's too big on the rear. You actually see the Knight on the rear is actually overlapping the rear wing parts of it itself. Like, this is normally just a trail. This trailing edge here is just normally fully black, so they've made that way too big. It needs to be proportionally the same size as the Optus one. I did notice a nice little touch here. It's on both corners of the car. The team at the 2024, I think #1 for the team's champions.
Yes,
so that's a nice touch.
This is the continuation of Dostal and Ethan Knight's team from last year, which did win the Super 2 Teams title. So
that's right.
Good to see them running that. It's a couple of guys have done that. I know. I think at one point Angus was considering running a similar thing a couple of years ago when he moved from Super 3 to Super 2 after winning the championship. But not too often do we see that. To be fair, it's hard to do because normally if you're in a position to celebrate a championship in Dev Series, you're already in Supercars.
That's right.
It's a hard one to celebrate.
This is a bit more of an appropriate logo on the mirrors as well. So going back to the Matt Cecil car, that's kind of what you're looking for. I mean, yes, it looks a bit strange from that angle because of the way it is, but when you go side on, you can see there that's got some nice space around it for the size of the surface you're putting that on.
Yes.
Darren Kemp, Pallet Control Solutions Racing, and this is just a continuation of last year's car, so there's not too much I guess we can really talk about on this one, but we will go through what we can. PCS logo needs to be slightly smaller because it's being cut off by the banner. Move that the Pallet Control Solutions a little bit further forward. Everything else about the car is it's basically a continuation of last year, so there's really not too much to do with it there, and not really much else I can say. I like the fact that this one's actually got the green and gold ASR logo, just a little nice touch that stands out. So again, same as last year's car, which a couple of people decided to pick, so nothing wrong with that one. But yeah, apart from that, there's been really no change to it, and yeah, there's plenty of empty space on a few other bits and pieces there, but that's the look that they went for last year. So, and look, some people are time poor. It is what it is, and go from there. The one thing that this car does have, which I didn't sort of realise until getting a second look at it, is this Shelby type stripe that runs not all the way down the car like the old Cobras of years gone past have, but it's got a half going down the bonnet, and it's just something that's a little bit unique and something we haven't seen a lot of in ASR over the years, but actually works with this car. Colour scheme wise, it actually does work.
It does, yeah. The only thing really drawback it has is that the transition of the rear wing hasn't quite been matched up properly to it. We just do different scaling of the template. But, the work wasn't done to go back in and try and align that back up.
Yeah.
It isn't a subtle difference. It is a pretty noticeable difference. It detracts slightly from the look of the stripe, but otherwise it is a nice and a bit of a novel concept to have.
Yeah, there it is. There, that's probably a bit more obvious. It's actually a little bit wider at the rear than it is on the actual on the spoiler than it is on the deck lid.
Yeah.
All right. Stop that. Okay, still got a couple of got 4 more Mustangs to go. We'll keep this moving along. SES Project Zero. So another SES team, Angus Brown. Okay. Wow, this is a bright start in the car.
This is very bright. Yep.
Very bright. Okay, first thing that is very, very obvious, the EHP Labs is a little bit too big and needs to come down a little bit and just made a little bit smaller. But and that's the only reason it's there I can see is purely because of what they've done here with the white stripe coming down to a point and then going back, because they've wanted to continue this little bit of blue, or highlight blue, going back up the car. But yeah, just needed to make that either a little bit smaller, move it down a bit forward, and again you can see what happened here as well. The logo's gone under the door handle, and the top of that door handle just needed to be painted just to match. The Puma logo, that's not bad. Back corner of the car, that AB36, yes, I know why you've done that there. That needs to be a little bit smaller. It's a little bit too close to the edges.
But that probably would almost do better as a black logo as well, rather than white, because it does get lost in the blue.
Yep. I would have moved the SES logo down a little bit, fill this gap in here. I'm not sure if that's just to do with the contours of the bonnet, the other front bar, but it needs a bit there. I was just looking here just to see why these little bits of white keep coming up, but I think it's just a light that's reflecting on the car.
Yeah, that is just a reflection from the showroom, yeah.
Yep. Okay. What have we got in the bonnet? Ooh, that's... I don't know if I like that, Rhodey. And down here, look at the corners where the bonnet's been painted. That I don't know what they were doing here on either side.
Yeah, I think they're probably trying to frame the industry's part of it.
Yeah, it's not,
I think
it's
it's
not
a
worked.
bit too. I think it's a bit too big, in the fact that PPG itself is just dropping into the front vents, and the industry is it's just awkward, a bit awkwardly sized as well.
Yeah.
Like making them both just a little bit smaller will probably help that quite a bit.
Yeah. It feels a little bit lost because you're used to seeing the PPG logo with white and blue, not the black and white. Yes. And it kind of doesn't work with this, but yeah, that's a little bit of I'm going to say the bonnet's a fail for this one. And it looks really weirdly proportioned too. Like, have a look at where the fender goes, and then you've got this narrowing as it comes down to the top of the front fender as well. It actually kind of doesn't look, and it's not like, I can see what they're trying to do. This side doesn't line up with the edge. They're trying to line it up here with the edge of the front black strip around the window, and it's not been done on either side very, very well.
Yeah, it's a hard I want to do. I think with that much black disappearing to the back of the bonnet, you really have to have a continuation plan for the colour, and whether it's just to try and disappear it up into the bottom of the windscreen, or maybe follow up the A-pillar or something. You kind of have to have somewhere for it to go, because it just does stop there, and it looks kind of wrong. It kind of has to continue when you've got that much of a colour going past the back of the bonnet.
What's the thoughts on this? Because everybody else has had logos either on the side or going the other way. With the Northern Territory there, and again, this top roof piece just doesn't look like it belongs on the car. It should have just been black.
Like you could probably get away with the shape. I think the thing that probably really does this a disservice is just the choice of a long logo, and what really need to be like a square or more almost a triangular logo, something like a pyramid shape. Like if there was a stacked version of that logo, that's what I would have put there. I would have put the circle in between the V, and then have the Northern Territory text where
underneath
it sits, centered and a bit wider.
Yeah,
that would take a lot better, because it almost looks like that car was sponsored with a logo in that spot, and then somebody complained and had to take the sponsor off the last. Yeah, is what that looks like.
Yeah. Now you want to know something? I'm going to call this. This is not something I've ever seen before, but I'm going to sort of call this out. So look at the colour scheme. So you've got blacks, whites. You've got the red and the blue, which works okay with here. These logos, okay, they're not too bad, because the majority of it's black with a little logo. But this Botlo logo on the rear, I just don't think works with the rest of the colour scheme. It just looks out. It looks out of place.
I'm pretty sure. I know Botlo would probably prefer to use their green, but I'm pretty sure there is going to be a white or a monochrome version of their logo that would go really nicely there.
Yes.
There's too many primary colours in this. Granted, it's only a small logo, but it does contribute to the primary colour set. And we saw this with the Super Chief Auto Chaz Mostert cars a few years back. They just had too many primary colours to them, and it became a bit of a mess. It's a similar thing here. If that was a white logo, you'd probably get away with it, because the blue and the darker blue work right together. The red blends in kind of well. It contrasts, but it's a good contrast. The green's kind of just it's maybe just with the rest of the colour, it just comes across as almost a bit icky.
Yeah, it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Go to the sister car, Jacob Palfrey. So there's been a couple of drivers that have switched some teams this year. Yeah, see, that's a little bit well, it's a bit better, but in terms of the colour scheme, I don't know about. Is he calling himself a poo wagon here?
I thought it said pool wagon for a second, and I was very
confused. It looks to me, it looks like poo wagon.
I think it does say poo wagon. It's a weird font N, but yeah, that's
a W.
Yeah, poo wagon. Okay, well, I hope I hope Palfrey or somebody from SES in the chat who can explain what poo wagon means.
Yeah,
I've got no idea whatsoever.
Neither do I. I thought first time when I saw this for the first time, the first thing I thought was Ryan Smith's gotten involved in this. But anyway, yes, please, can we have someone in the chat to tell us what the hell this is? Otherwise, this is going to be the nickname of this car and this driver on the bootleg broadcast. You know, it'll be Brown getting chased by Poo Wagon. And yeah, it's going to put us all in stitches, right? There was actually on that topic, we had a funny thing at work today. This is going slightly off kilter. At work today, they were talking about something that I think one of my work colleagues was married in 1993. So my boss turned around to one of the two youngest people that were there that weren't even born yet, and said, "What were you guys doing in 1993?" And one of the young girls there said, "I was a sperm in my father's ball sack." and the whole room erupted in laughter. So,
oh, no.
yeah, so that's something appropriate to genitalia and bodily fluids has now struck twice for me today. Okay, onto the side here, the JP on the side, that's similar to the AB36. Yep, just make it a little bit smaller. The Kenworth logo on the back corner, it looks a little bit lost. It looks like it's just not so much an afterthought, but it looks like it doesn't belong.
The problem with it is, again, as I talked earlier about trying to sponsor the front quarters, because of the detail in that logo, because it's the Kenworth badge rather than like the Kenworth wording, it's just a sea of pixels. Like, it's a very hard logo to even tell what it is without knowing it's a Kenworth logo.
Mm-hmm. And
like, realistically, like, that would fit on the roof of the prior design. I'm not sure if the roof is the same as the sign. That would fit right on the roof, but that's a really hard logo to work with because it's such a vertical logo, and very few spaces on a car that are vertical.
Yeah.
So
now I know that the V logo is off center. It's rotated like it normally is because that's part of their promotion sort of thing there. It's been cut off by a few things there. It's a bit too close to the bottom. I would have personally just ditched. I know you're trying to keep the theme here, but I would have ditched the white and I would have centered that logo. If you really want to keep the proportions of what you want to do with the logo, you need to give it the real estate around it when you're doing something like that. And yeah, they've got this theme going on the bonnet here with the two little prongs. I'm going to call them prongs off the black. Yeah, we know that doesn't work. I don't know about the front part of the car. I know this is a sponsor, but what's with the little bits of white either side of it? Is that part of the logo? Not part of the logo over there. I don't know what that is there, but it's continued into the rest there. I would have just left those little two pieces there black.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit strange. But look, same sort of things as the sister car that we've picked up already. So, not much to really talk about there. Just again, those V logos just need to be a little bit smaller just because down here at the bottom, getting a bit too close. Actually, it is very close. It's actually different on both sides, I think. That's more visibly, you can see it's visibly rounded at the bottom there. But then you go to the side here and it actually has overflowed.
Yeah, it might just be whether there was a left and right hand version of the logo, whether you had to kind of create one on the fly. Yeah, it can be a hard one to line up sometimes, especially with a logo that isn't exactly a rounded logo. Like the top and the bottom won't be in a center. We can see it with a pixel. They're going to be off. The center's going to be off skew somewhere compared to the actual shape of the image. No,
just for Tim Redmond's sake, it's a Kiwi logo. He was worried. He was worried. He was worried it was an Australian logo. Yeah, we're not pinching him, Tim.
That's right. Yeah, you guys can keep Palfrey.
That's it. You can keep him. Okay, two more of the Mustangs. There's actually quite a Mustang-heavy field this year. Tim Sullivan Racing. So he's one of the new entries this year. Let's have a look. Okay, let's just start with the side. Good size on the back with the Golf logo. FPT, what's that? Powertrain Technologies. Okay, that one probably could have moved down the car a little bit and been a little bit bigger. It's getting a little bit lost just on that crease there. I mean, it's to do with the shadow, but you've got some real estate here. Just use that car. It is a very bright car. The white really stands out. The SR Sullivan Racing. Yep. Okay. There's a lot of sponsors and a lot of space left on this car that could have been used. The onshore marine engineering kind of disappears into the white a little bit, so it's a bit hard to see.
The other thing I will say, actually, with that, if you're just going to have that one sponsor on the bonnet, taking some advice from Lewis, that far back you're not going to see it. You need to come a bit further down, probably in front of the bonnet vents.
Yeah, between the bonnet vents and the pins. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's word from Scotty Murrell, you're going to need a visor this year because there's a lot of bright cars in the field. Yeah, see the onshore marine at the back there is a bit more appropriate for the proportions. It actually works a little bit better there than it does anywhere else. Not much else happening on the wings. Just put his own nameplate on there. But look, got to start somewhere, I guess. But yeah, car's it is bright, needs definitely needs a bit more sponsors in there, and it's gone with the standard lights. So there's a few things that are there, and just went with the standard ASR windshield banner on there too. But apart from that, it'd be good to have a newcomer on board. But could have filled out a few things in a few other spots there. Foley actually just pointed something out in the chat. There's a carbon roof.
Yeah, there's a couple of carbon roofs I think that have popped up in the series this year. But yeah, this was a nice touch. It's something good. It's similar to I think it was the Cecil car. Go ahead to just break up the colour. Sorry, it wasn't the Cecil car. It was the Callahan car. Go ahead to sort of break up the white a little bit to go for the carbon roof. It just breaks up a little bit, and I'm not sure if this is Tim's first design, but it's definitely his first ASR design. And yeah, look, it's a good starting point. He's got a base design that works. He can definitely add some logos to it, and there are slots there available in your alt slots. You don't have to use them for different liveries. If you want to evolve upon the one livery, you can do that as well.
That's
a chance
exactly
to take on board some of the advice you're given and work on and improve your liveries.
That's it. Onto somebody who didn't submit a livery.
Yeah.
So there's not much we can talk about this one. So yes, Alex Kiddis.
I mean, talking about the livery, I think I don't want to do the service. I think this was Rossi's work originally. One of the two of them when they designed the Mustang to begin with. Now, obviously, the one problem that this does have, and look, we can't really fault this one because like the ASR was done because it was never ever that car was never ever meant to have door banners on it. Yes.
But yes, of course, in this case, it does. So it cuts off the ASR logo. But yes, this was work done when Rossi and Higo and Lewis to that degree all spent some time doing work and developing this car for ASR in the first place. So this is because Kiddis didn't submit a livery. So he's got something. We weren't going to pull anything out of the pack, but you missed a livery deadline. You get what the admins give you. So that's the end of the equation.
Absolutely, yeah. He's got a chance to submit something later in the year and actually get a delivery in. But yeah, for now he's in that car, which is already prepared to get ready to go, and wasn't a bad looking car. So.
That's right. And that also is the end of the Mustangs. And we're going to go on to the ZBs now. There were a couple of cars in here that were reused from last year, so familiar colours for this one. So we've got here NZ Snipes and the Beyond Racing Team Tanifer cars. So everything else that's in here is pretty much a repeat of last year's cars. The logos on the corners, I think Lewis did mention that they needed to be just probably a little bit smaller because this is getting a little bit too close just to the edge of the splitter. And same on the other
if
side.
you're trying to be on slightly, you could bring the paste up a bit, and it would look like it actually fit there and belonged there.
Yep, that's right. AMD logos there. Sponsor that hasn't been with us for a couple of years now.
I think ultimately his livery's backdate to maybe 2022.
Possibly.
I think they backdate to when Cheese and Snipes were running as Beyond Team Tanifer and Supercars.
Yep. These logos work well. I like the fact that they're stepped as well. So you've got the Tama, you've got Asus, and you've got NZXT, and they've got that sort of stepped approach. So it actually looks quite nice. We got the early 20s. That's a nod to the band, so that's good. And obviously the Waratahs on the back. So again, nothing to be frowned about there. This actually works. This is the one thing I loved about this car when it came out, was the way that they'd incorporated the Air New Zealand logo into the wheel well and how to come out the back door, and it actually looks quite smart. The only thing that I will say again is the door handle needed to be coloured to match the logo, just so it had that continuation. And I also like the fact that they've done this little, the blue on the rims is a match for the blue on the Air New Zealand logo. So I actually thought that was a really nice, and it's a match for a lot of the other blue you're seeing. So the blue around the edge of the trim here, very close match to the Beyond Electrical logo there, and so on and so forth. It actually is quite nicely done. It's a nice touch. And actually,
we're able to get a livery. I'm not sure who this goes back to. I think it was 2022. So I'm not sure who put this one together, but it was. Yeah, there's where these because there is the sister car, which we'll see in a second. These were very well put together cars.
Yeah, would have actually not been a bad idea to try and potentially colour in the mustaches here as well. I reckon they wouldn't have looked too bad with that blue going through there. Would have been something a little bit different.
Either the blue, or I think even just making them black. I think on this livery, I don't think the chrome works because there's a lot of other dark colours to this car. You kind of have to darken down a little bit.
Yeah.
unless you go for a matching highlight color. But yeah, that's a little thing.
One of few people to paint their helmets as well, I should say as well, which is good.
Well, yes, one of the people to submit a painted helmet. I will say to the drivers, because I think there were a few that messaged me at some point and said, "Hey, would you include this livery?" But I've been doing a lot over the past 2 weeks and I've forgotten. So if you want one included, shoot me a message and we'll get something in for you for round 2.
Yep. The sister car, the 747 of Cheese. So we've got to make sure we get it properly. We know his real name is, but it is officially Cheese. Again, the Kiwi Silver Fern just needed to come a bit closer, needed to come a little bit further around the around the front of the car and just make it a little bit smaller. The snap-on actually is fine where it is. Everything else about the car is basically very similar to the other car, so the stepped approach there, the different colours of the Air New Zealand. This one doesn't have the red air section around the rim. They've actually gone for the white, and I actually think that was probably the better choice, considering that this car has a little bit more pop with the white on the dark surface compared to the sister car, which was the purples and the blue hues with a little bit of white. The white is the more dominant colour against the darker surface on here. So painting the rim edges with the black centre or the black spokes and the white sort of around the edge of the rim actually worked a lot better with this car. If it had been red, it probably would not have looked as good.
I might be reading too far into it as well, but I think it works even better because if you have red, you'd have a red rim, you'd have a red nut center, and you'd have a red brake caliper, and it would look a bit too busy.
Yes.
So I think that's what I also played into as well, was just separating it from the rest of the colours in that rim area.
Yeah, and everything else about the car is the same as what was run last year and the year before, so again, not too much there. The only thing I will see is I noticed that both cars had sort of done this with the Repco logo, but they got a little bit too close to where the ASR logo template was actually meant to sit. That's about the only real bad strike. See, actually, in actual fact, the ASR ones we know were in the right spots. The left is actually a little bit different position to where the one on the right is. So,
yeah, I will say, I'm pretty sure it was these two cars from memory. I did actually have to move the ASR logo on 2 cars. I think it was these two. These were actually positioned differently to the standard placement, but if I'd put them where they were supposed to go,
would have overlapped.
They would have overlapped. They were actually already on the car, and we would have actually had 2 overlapping ASR logos that also overlapped the Repco. So this instance, they got moved up slightly.
Yeah.
So that placement predates this year as well. That would have been probably when the car originally got its Smith & Sons stickers.
That's right. Okay. On to Stuart McNichol, the Curie Gogsport PBF. First, the PBF cars we've seen. Wow, this is a bit of a departure compared to last year. We've got I guess it's a little bit of a theme compared to what we saw with Steve Warwick and Mitchell Steele-Allison last year when they had the double-sided cars, the tribute to the BAR cars in Formula 1 of years gone past.
Yep.
First bit that strikes me is it's not a true half-half, because you can see here where you've got the good boy vodka there, and the way that this contour sort of goes, and then it's not like a thing down the middle, and it tails off to the corner. So that's the first thing that grabs my attention. In actual fact, it's a little bit worse than that, because what they've actually done is the brake caliper, so the brake inlet duct entry there is painted too. So I don't know about how that sort of looks there with following that line. I've not seen anything like this before, but it's hard for me to really read on this too much.
I feel that if you'd had the looking from the driver's point of view, the left brake duct and the vertical part of it and all that, and basically the stripe tracked into the grille and didn't actually continue then across the front of it, that wouldn't look so bad. It's because it's come across, it's a bit confusing, because the shape visually blends down from the edge of the bonnet down the front bar down into the splitter, but then it also continues across the bottom as well, and it's a bit confusing. I can see maybe the decision was to make that black, given that there's already a dark area. It didn't really need to be chrome, but because it matches up so well with the stripe, it looks kind of like the stripe's a bit undecided which way it's supposed to go. Yeah.
Now, the hard part too when you do a split livery is what do you do with the sponsors? Now, he's obviously kept the same sponsors, but he's actually inverted the colours, which obviously had to work there. It looks a bit strange with this logo on here, having white with the black outline. If if I was me, I actually think that this logo here probably should have been deleted and just left as empty, because it looks a bit weird trying to keep a logo with the same sort of scheme, which is meant to be just black writing, and you've got half of it with white outline. In actual fact, when you zoom in on it there, it's only got white outline because it passes right past where the cutoff section is. So I would have taken the Novara one and just thrown it in the bin. That doesn't work there for me. Everything else about the car so far, it's got that split. So we've got another split livery on the rear here. Everything else looked like it was okay. See, the Novara right there is actually a lot better on the sill. Yes. On the sill, it's actually perfect, right where it is there. Let's have a look at the sponsors. I would have probably, what I would have done here is I would have taken the RMU and the Penrite ones, because they are a bit taller, and put them toward the rear, and moved probably the NGK up to the front, and then the Teen one into second, and then move them along, just because of the height sizes. You can't screw with the height sizes too much, but because this one is disappearing below the sort of the bottom part of the door, you need to give that a bit more real estate a bit further back, so it's not so squashed in the corner here. And if you were trying to get 5 on, you could have even maybe just pared it back slightly and maybe just gone with 4. But they are, because you've got all this real estate here in the back cut part that you can use, having 5 sponsors might feel like it's a bit too many, so maybe even 4 probably would have sufficed there. Similar scheme to what we saw on the Lennart Grossel car last year, with having the cans and things in the main series.
Yep.
So you've got the Penrite ones on the back here. You probably could have just dropped the Penrite one from in there, and then moved the others along to make that work. PBF on the rear, good proportion sizing on the rear end plates, and on the other side of course you've got the dual side, so you had to invert the colour scheme for the logos. See, it is still a bit hard to see, but yes, it stands out a little bit better, the silver on the black, but yes, still would say drop back to 4 logos for that one, or 4 sponsor logos. Okay, and well, I've noticed the helmet.
Yeah, so this was, so that was he's had this helmet for I think 2 years now. This will be a custom design of his own. I'm not sure as to why it has what I assume to be a dog face on it. I assume Stuart isn't. I think Stuart isn't live chat. He'll probably explain it.
Woof.
He's had that for a little while. But the other thing as well, actually, I spotted when putting this Livery together, you have to get it from the right angle on the roof, but there is a very lightly stenciled 227 in the roof as well.
Okay, let's see if we can find that. So, got the Good Boy vodka there.
You can just, we're looking at it the wrong way around, but it's front facing, but we're looking at the you probably can't see it from this angle just with the lighting of the car. Or you can just about make out the outline of a 7 on the right there, but it's just ever so faintly in the car. It's a very sort of
there it is there. These lines that are there,
sort of like architectural font almost, if you get what I'm saying. But it's just buried in there, and I think probably is cut off by the development series banner, but it's just a little bit of detailing just to break up the chrome.
I would have gotten rid of these logos too. They're sort of a bit hard. That one's definitely hard to see in the corner there, and it works a little bit better there. But I probably, because you've already got those logos on the front corner of the car, I would have just deleted those.
Yes.
Okay. The Saw Racing by PBF, so the team is retained from last year, so Steele Allison and Steve Warwick, and we saw this last year, and has been reused again, the Jim's mowing. I can't remember what Lewis said about this one last year.
I think it was introduced for the second last round of the series,
yes,
so it wouldn't have had a direct roast, it probably would have had some, well actually no, second last round of the series, this would have been under our purview or under your purview of broadcasting. So actually, Lewis wouldn't have directly seen this car. That.
That's right. So I like the fact that we've just gone for 3 on the side, and they're in appropriate. Are they in appropriate spots?
Just about.
Just about. What I would have done on the rear is I would have moved that DeWalt logo either down so it was within the green, or I would have actually deleted the Dell logo there, because you've already got it not too far away, and sort of continued the grass up a little bit higher, so you could have actually put the DeWalt logo inside the grass. it looks a little bit strange sitting on top of the actual the bit of the template there. The rear's nicely done, not too bad there. So you've also got the Dell logo up here. You've got Dell, Dell and Dell inside of half a car. Probably could have paired that back to just the two. Would have made a bit of sense. I don't know about you, Rody. What do you think about the green quick bolts to get the bumper bar on and off the rear?
It's something different. It's I think just with the fact they're on the white, they kind of stand out. They almost look like pimples.
Okay.
I think just the contrast from the green to the white, they just stand out a bit too much.
Yeah.
Like you can paint them to blend them in with the existing design, but there is no design anywhere near any of them. So they're just someone's just got there and just paint little polka dots on the rear of the car.
Yeah, I like the fact. I actually like the dots on the parts of the window being green more than I like the anodized bolts. As Brent Foley's just pointed out, he's wondering why the budget has now been blown on anodized bolts for PBF. I like the fact someone's actually done something with the brake ducts and put a little logo. Took an opportunity to put a logo in there. It does get a little bit lost because of how far back they're sitting. I know you tried to centre them, but they do get a bit lost. I would have brought them a bit further forward, so like you could have actually. So if you're looking from a car from that angle, you probably want to see the logo on the corner there a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a bit too far back. I think it's a hard one because you want to center it on any panel, but that's one of the few panels where you really have to just push it as far forward as you can get it, because you're right, down the back there it just disappears into the blackness as the brake duct, and there's no sponsors are going to be happy to be centered, but they'd much rather be seen than be centered.
That's right. Yeah, they're paying for the advertising space. They want to get it seen more than anything. And yeah, good positioning on the bonnet there as well. Well done.
Yeah.
All right, the other car that's in the team, Steve Warwick machine. Okay, the Jim's cleaning one. So pretty much a replica of the sister one. So same but different. Lose the second Dell, move the, continue this up a bit more. I can see what you've done there where it's sort of going up and then over and then back down again, but it would have been nice to sort of pick it up a little bit further up and then have a spot for that DeWalt logo to go. Same on the rear, everything looking good there. Same on the side, and same situation on the front. So pretty much an absolute replica of the other car, just with the different colour scheme. Oh no, I didn't notice the lights before now, Rhodey, as well, with how they've actually done this little cutout here, because normally on the ZB it's just that little circular section on the front where the lights are going to be. So
yeah, something different. Sort of goes back to the the VE era and maybe early VFs, where they'd have a dedicated section cut out of one side of the headlights.
Also just noticed, I didn't see it before on the other one, but the door mirror sponsors, the Aegean one there, I would have made that a little bit darker, fellas. I probably would have just taken a second copy of the logo and pasted it over there just to try and get the darkness up, because it does get lost in such a white livery. You have to really get up on the car to see it.
I will say in defence, not so much in defence of, but these two cars were liveries designed for, I believe, Mitch and a teammate to run. Maybe not designed for, but I know it was run by Mitch and a teammate in a sort of Corsa league.
Mm-hmm.
But they were designed by JHW Designs.
So, yeah, and that's why there's a tribute on the front.
Together. Yeah, so that's why he's got his logo there.
Yeah.
But so that's where the design for these came from. They're not the only car to be sourced from another mod in the ZBs, but we'll get to that third car in a little bit.
Yep. So there's another car that's about to happen. This is the last of the ZBs.
There it is.
Actually.
Yeah, we're going to do it next.
We're going to do it right now. So yeah, the Jesse Bennett one. Well, what more do we say? We know if you know your supercars, you know where this one's come from.
Nick Burkett, Brad Jones, I think it was 2018.
All right, well, Brenton Foley's the expert in the chat. Let's see if he gives you a pass mark for that. Now, obviously, because it's a recreation as well, it's hard, obviously, for us to sit there and go, well, such and such painted this and did that. But when I look at it and I say, well, obviously they're a bit too close to the edge of the top there, but we don't know what it was like back in the day. I haven't obviously got my memory on here as well, and the sponsors on the side, the Virgin Australia logo, obviously because it's come from another league, it's obviously cut over by the ASR logo, so not much I guess that can be done there. You've got to take the good with the bad. around the side here. Speed flow one I always think is a bit too close. That sort of gets it. It's a bit hard to, if you try and square the car up, it's sort of, that one sort of gets a little bit lost down at the bottom there. It almost feels like it's going underneath the car. Foley's giving you a pass mark, by the way. Everything on the rear. And, well, whoever repainted it didn't do the door handle piece there, which should have been done. But yeah, given it's a recreation, there's not a huge amount we can actually really talk about here because we don't know where it came from. Now, just pointing out something here. We saw this on the back of the Ethan Knight Mustang. This is usually what you would see on the rear part of the rear wing. Like this section is black with, do not push, pull, blah, 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 blah. You don't see logos wrapping up over the back of that part of the wing. So that's why we gave that a fail from a bit earlier on.
Yeah, I did see Jesse probably say he got an inkling that we're moving to his car and he wanted to leave. I will say, Jesse, you did at least put the effort into giving us a livery, and to be fair, you did actually have to go and remove a sponsor from the roof to make sure there was room to put the Development Series banner. And actually, he thought about it because originally he was going to run, I think it was the 2020 or 2019 Team 18 retro livery, the NASCAR design with the big door numbers. But he couldn't find an easy way to turn an 18 into a 710. So this is why I ended up with Timken car. Okay.
All right. Well, that actually concludes Super 2. So Super 2 makes up the majority of the field, unsurprisingly. I think there's only...
so there is... I think there's 2/3 of the grid is Super 2. Of that, I think 2/3 of that is Mustangs.
Yeah, pretty much. So
that's most of the cars done at this point.
Yeah, so there's approximately 6 ZBs, and then I'm just doing the numbers now. 13, 14, 15 Mustangs. So 15 and 6. So that's actually quite a lot in terms of the offset. In terms of, did I get that right? Give me a second. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, 14. 14 and 6. So that makes up 20 out of a field of 30. So yeah, it's 2/3 split, with Mustang being the overwhelming choice of car. Not that it makes any difference with the physics, it's just all about aesthetics. We're going to get into Super 3, and again, Ford before Holden before Nissan, and in chronological order. Can I have a drum roll, please? Because this was the feel-good moment of the year, I think, when it first went out. That's right, I'm returning to the development series, hopefully not to get rear-ended for the umpteenth time, although, what's his name? What was the guy that kept rear-ending me? What was his name again?
We're going back a few years.
We're going back a few years now.
It wasn't one of the imports, was it?
It wasn't an import, but he owned a pizza shop. He owned a Domino's pizza shop.
What Wayne Spencer?
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah,
okay.
kept getting rear-ended by him, and that's why I dropped out. So anyway, so this livery has been taken actually from before we we'll bring it up now because it's 1-3 Cabs Racing. It's no longer the Outworld Broadcasting car. There we go. All right. So the backstory from this livery is that it was a guest car in the Apex Rear Wing Championship. Brendan Foley would have remembered this. There was 2 cars, and the sister car in white is the alternate livery for this car. And this was the car that I drove as a guest in that series. I can't remember who painted the car, to be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure, but it's like, hey, I'll drive that. I'm game enough.
I was gonna say, I was looking at this car earlier, and I was reading some of the stuff on the rear quarter panels, and I thought, if neither was the one to design this, seriously, you've been a bit cheeky with it. But to be fair, knowing you didn't design this makes a lot more sense because I know some of the ARW guys. I could definitely see some of those comments on the rear quarter panels coming from them.
Yes. So it's basically a replica of a taxi. Is pretty much the backstory of this. It's got the ARW as a nod on the rear wing there as well. And there's not a huge amount there. And this is part of the problem, right? So. I know for a fact that, yes, there's a problem here because the accredited taxi service on the one corner there, but it's not on that corner there. So, yes, I will take the blame for that one. 13 cabs in black cabs, taxi number. Now, there is a little bit on the... I think we'll try and get it from the other side so you can actually see it. There is a little slogan there.
I know, you have to look at both because they are different. I checked. They are
different, okay.
Yes.
So the first one of those is taxi driver may be talking to his friend overseas in foreign language. Well, that happens in a taxi all the time, doesn't it? If you ever caught a cab. And the other one is taxi driver may assault you in lieu of payment.
To be fair,
taxi driver may sexually assault you in lieu of payment.
Yes.
So we know that that's happened over the course of the years in taxis. But yes, so that's why I decided to do this as a bit of a gimmick, just to go, well, you know what? Why not? There's actually a reason why I've decided to enter the development series this year. Actually, Stairs has actually just jumped up into the chat. Hello, Stairs. It's good to see you again, my friend. And yes, he's recognised. He said he thinks that Decimage painted this one. You need to give him a roast, Stairs, because he missed the corner. There's a reason why I've decided to re-enter the development series this year, and that reason will become apparent a bit later on in the year. I'm not going to reveal the answer for that now, but we'll bring that out in due course. Just to show you the other half of that, just so you can actually see the full picture, because there is, of course, the alternate livery that goes with that, just to make a little bit of sense. And that's the alternate livery there in white. So at some point that car will run, and it's naturally missing the corner on the front there as well.
I will say, I think the single number plate placement was actually intentional. I think it was just that you'd want to put it on the front and the centre, but obviously you can't. So you just picked the side and it just went there, because it would look weird having two number plates on the front of one car.
Well, the thing too is you pick someone up at the curb in Australia on the left-hand side.
True, yeah. So exactly. So it's where it needs to be.
Yes, that's right. Because it's on the rear. It's obviously they're centred on the rear. So yes, it couldn't have gone on the front. Yes, in that particular occasion. So there we go. All right, we will go back to the official Super 3 cars now. There's two more Ford Falcon FGXs, and for the Tassie Devil Virtual Sports. So Adam Kerrison. Now, this is a car we saw last year. Now, Rhodey, I tell you what, the bit that triggers my OCD in this is the bloody rims. I don't know what on earth possessed somebody to paint the rims like this.
Look, I will say, in defence of Adam, the rim template is partially to blame for this. For whatever reason, the outer surface of the rim is flipped to the inner surface of the rim, or to the spokes, which I found last year trying to do the wedge shape for the HSV livery around last year. You could fix it, or you could just stick with it as it is, because to be fair, he's managed to one-up the previous master of the pinwheel rims, which was why am I forgetting his name right now? This is not good.
How about you get? Oh, go on.
Matt, no, former admin Matt, whose last name I'm forgetting at this point, which is embarrassing.
Scruff, you mean?
Scruff, yeah, Scruff, Matt Williams, Scruff. He used to be the master of the pinwheel rims. He would run them on these test liveries in GT3. He'd have big, scary American pinwheel rims when he was running under what was his persona? I forget.
I know the one. He had multi-personality disorder.
Yes.
Ricky Slick is the one you're referring to, and then R Slick and all of these other things. Yes.
Ricky Slick and then Jimmy Ray Slick. It's something different to see the pinwheels. They are, because of the template, they are ultimately a confused pinwheel. But you know what? I think it was proven last year with me running the rims I did in Dev Series that having even just one little corner swinging around distracted people. That is going to be a mental warfare weapon in Super 3 this year. So that might be the secret sauce that they need to get some results, is just distracting the hell out of the other 8 drivers in Super 3 by having wheels that do that in rotation.
Okay, we've actually just started a poll because there's a bit of mixed conjecture in the chat here about these rims, and the thing is, are these rims horrid? The answers are yes or no. You have approximately 2 minutes to vote, and let's get a thing here. We'll see how bad it actually is. Okay, so aside from the rims, I would have taken the sponsors and I would have put 2 in the front, 1 behind the exhaust outlet. Probably the Seiko one should be the one to move. Dunlop come forward, PPG a bit closer to the exhaust outlet, and then the Seiko one back there. Trying to squeeze them in doesn't work. TDVS, just make it a touch smaller. Doesn't need to be that big. Again, handle on the door, common theme this year. On the rear, not too much on the rear. Love me a James Bogue. This doesn't work. This discovertasmania.com.au embedded into the rear rainbow does not work. It's completely lost. It needs to be at worst in white on the rear boot lid. So the rear boot, just here where my mouse is going. That's where it needs to be.
Yes.
I don't like. I can see why you've done it because of the colour scheme. I'm not a fan of the different coloured end plates on the rear wing. It doesn't look right. I would have blacked it personally. I would have just left it.
I'm not. I don't dislike necessarily because they do match up with the mirrors as well. So there is a handedness to the car. It's kind of leaning into the split livery without committing fully to the split livery. But I don't think it's too bad of an idea. It's probably a similar thing to. It was the BAR cars I think we're talking about. I think I was watching. I actually went back and watched. I think it was Lewis's. I was watching a few roasts because I needed some background audio while I was preparing the liveries. And somebody, I think it was Dane, it was Ben a couple of years ago, had a split livery where he had Bunnings down one side and I think it was Macca's down the other. And as good as that car looked, the general consensus was that would work really well as two cars. I think in this same instance here, you could use it as a way to delineate the two cars, and I haven't seen the second car necessarily to tell, but you could almost do red on one car for both sides and then green for one car on the other sides.
Yeah, that's right.
Just to try and separate the cars out.
Yeah. I noticed as well that the Tassie Devil logo on both sides is obviously different colours going along with the split livery, and same with the there's a little corner here just on the V as well that's done the same.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't mind that, but yes, I think the other one goes a bit too far. That's more appropriate, right? That white there for the Discover Tasmania is what you should have done on the rear boot in that side. I don't think the Logitech would appreciate their logo interfering with the rainbow. That should have been a bit smaller and just moved up a little bit, just to get.
Yeah, I can see what he's doing, trying to set it on the logo. I think if you're going to do that, you almost have to do a black outline around the G so that there is still the clear space around it.
Yeah, and if you're going to paint one headlight with a little logo on there, you need to paint the other one. It looks out of place.
It looks off-center. It looks unbalanced.
It looks unbalanced, right? So that's a fail. The poll is officially going to be closed, and the verdict is 73% of you all think that those rims are absolutely horrid. So that is an over, and that was 15 votes, so that's an overwhelming majority.
That's a super majority if you're going off the US political spectrum, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, thank God we aren't over there at the moment. Oops, did I say that out loud? All right, on to the sister car. So, Brian Walsh. So, there are a few changes to this car, obviously. Number has changed. So, same things we're going to point out here. Those sponsors at the bottom need to be shifted around. The Discover Tasmania on the rear. There is a slight change of sponsor here.
Cascade for James Bogue, and also Walsh has got Fanatec in the place of Logitech.
That's right, and the Fanatec actually, well, it's a bit more appropriate, but again, I would have lifted it a little bit because it's actually, well, have a look there. It's actually disappearing. It's actually merged in with the top of the rainbow there. So for me, that's a fail. There needed to be black space between the purpley red colour and the logo.
And one thing we're considering as well, I believe, I mean, I could actually check, but I believe this car did come to me as a 2K livery. Something worth considering generally when you're designing on a 4K template, which I do. Keep in mind that everything's going to shrink to half its size that you're looking at currently. So if you're leaving, say, a 2 pixel gap, it becomes a 1 pixel gap. If you're leaving 4 pixels, it becomes 2. So a good rule of how to think about that is if you feel like you need, say, 5-10 pixels as a minimum space, keep in mind that you need to then make that 10 or 20 pixels when you're originally painting it, because when you shrink the car, everything comes down in size, which includes the gaps between the logos.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind.
That's it. Just noticing as well, they've actually done a pretty good job here of matching up where the lines of the bonnet go, because of course this car's got a bit of a bonnet bulge in it. You can see there, it sort of goes up, and then there's some trim at the bottom of the window. So they've actually done a pretty decent job of trying to match it up to get that continuation going over the car. Normally, this would actually just be black behind that part of the bonnet there.
Yes.
I don't know about you. They've tried to get the numbers on the tops of the cars by the look of it. I didn't notice this until I looked at Walsh's car. I actually think that might have been better off in a different colour in general, probably black, going against those three colours, or white with a black outline.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I will say just it's just from the combo of colours together,
and that goes along. That's right. Before you go too far, that actually goes along with the fact the Motul on the rear wing as well. I didn't notice until now. That's getting lost in the yellow, so that needed to have some sort of outline on it to make that work. So that's probably that's why white probably wouldn't necessarily work up here without a black outline.
Yeah, I'm not sure which country it is, but I swear there is a country, it'll be an African nation somewhere that has those three colours as their flag, and it's just that with the number on the roof, just that combination of colours and shapes just makes it look a bit too much like, especially if you tilt your head to line it with the stripe, it almost looks a bit like it's a little bit not far off, but it's starting to look a bit too much like a national flag from somewhere in Africa, I presume. But I think breaking that colour up a little bit would be good because there's just a bit too much of those colours in that area.
Yeah, it reminds me of a country, as you said, in Africa that's having like a civil war or something at the moment. Yes. I can't pick the country, but I know the colours. Yeah, it's not like a Cameroon or something like that. Somewhere in that general area. Well, Walshy's just said Ghana, so maybe that's where it's come from. That's the Ford Falcon FGXs. We're going to go on to, there was only 3 of them. We're going to go on to the 4 VFs. So I'm going to start with you now, Rody. So PBF Holden Racing Team, so the team that's had a slight name change. Right, so to me, this looks like it's a livery that's had a bit of reuse from somewhere before.
No, so this is, both of these are based on, so every time I do an original design, which is, I'll learn one day and start reusing stuff because it's saved me a whole lot of time and headaches. No, so this is a livery I've meant to be running for a few years, but it's one that I've always put off because it's honestly scared me. This is the 2010 HRT livery, and it was the most, at least for the time, the most complex livery that Pete Hughes had designed for Holden Racing Team. And that was part of the reason it put me off because there's drop shadows, extra little details. I didn't even get 100%. Anyone that knows the car will know there's meant to be 2 bits of red on the splitter. Mm-hmm. I didn't get around to it, partially because I haven't painted splitters nearly enough to be able to do that blindly. I did most of this car blindly because I know mostly what the VF looks like in-game. So I just know, right, this line's up there, this line's up there. Okay. But yeah, so both of our cars are based on the 2010 car. Mine's based on the season car. Crackers is based on a bit of a hybrid of what was termed as the lost cars. So it was liveries that were designed but didn't actually get run, with a bit of a merger of the season car, more or less because I was running out of time.
All right. Well, let's see if you have listened to Lewis over the years. Right? Let's start right here. Good proportion sizing and stuff like that. Probably did need to colour that bolt a little bit because it does lose the logo in the corner, so that's a little bit of an issue there. And same on the other side, it just gets upset by the bolt. Good size on the splitter, good size with the bonnet. Obviously that was in the back in the day, it's where they had the HSV back in the day, so I like the fact you've kept that. It's a bit hard to see in the light where you've got the speckies setups and stuff on the corners and stuff there. It's just a bit hard with where the light's going there, but it seems to work. It's in a good spot. It's a bit hard because of where the
the nice big vent on the VF that wasn't there on the VE. That's one of the tricky spots with that car.
That's right. Yeah. So that's obviously a bit of a tricky spot to do. So I mean, it would have been probably a bit difficult there. But yes, you don't want to lose the proportion, but you've got to find a way to make that work. Couple of the logos on the sill. I think the Pete Hughes one is the right size. The Stratco's a little bit too tall, and probably the Auto one is as well. It's just again, what you were saying about pixels before, just give yourself that extra little bit of height. Because that way, if you had have made the Stratco logo, if you had have actually resized it slightly smaller, you would have actually created a nice little bit of extra gap, probably an extra, couple of pixels up to about here where my mouse is, just so you had some separation between those logos, and then a bit of separation between that logo and the exhaust, and same with this one, proportionally sized, it create a little bit of that black just so it gives it some spacing.
Yep.
Jaguar's getting a little bit lost, getting a little bit too close to the bottom there. Alright, what have we got on the back here? Everything seems to work. Again, the eco line's just maybe a little bit too tall. I actually probably would have, I don't know, I would have actually probably considered either deleting the eco line or maybe making something with the text that's a little bit smaller.
Ideally, I would have had a bit of a black background to go behind it, but there isn't really a way to do the under tray the same way that there was the drop tank on the VE. But the eco line is one of the few things I have there as the nod to the 2010 car, because the 2010 car was the only, one of 2 or 3 cars that had eco line on it. It was something that Holden was trying to promote at the time with the VE.
Well, what I would have done, I just noticed this as well. You've got an extra sponsor on one side because of where the exhaust was.
Yep.
And it obviously makes it a bit difficult to run with. Probably the Jaguar logo should have been replaced by that Holden design one, because that sort of would have fit a little bit more appropriately in there. It wouldn't have been as tall. And then maybe just, tried to put the logos on either side and still have that gap. Maybe even paint a fake exhaust there, because it looks a bit odd having 3 on one side and 4 on the other.
Yeah, that's another thing that's based on the actual 2010 car. They did exactly that. The Holden design was literally just we designed this car, and it was a well, I mean, Holden self-sponsored half this car anyway, but it was we promote what we do, because that was a useless spot to sponsor, because it'd only be one side of the car. Nobody would pay to be on just on one skirt of the car, so that was why that logo went there.
Tell me about the Japanese. What's the Japanese?
So the Japanese is, let me grab the box.
He needs to get reference material for this one, ladies and gentlemen.
I do. No, so I was trying to come up with some personal brands, and I had this discussion actually with my sister, because I've run into an issue where if I want to represent my family in ways, I've got various brands I can pick. I've got dad's old businesses, I've got mum's old bookkeeping company. For my sister, I've got Livery, which is on the rear boot. That's her fictional restaurant in Sims that she asked me to name one day, and I just said Livery, but you don't spell it French, we spell it Wee. So that's what that is, and she's designed 2 logos for that over the last 5 years. So this is, you can just about see the logo on the top, probably. It is Kobayashi Pharmaceutical, and they make the glass cleaning wipes that I use, which my gran kept a ready supply for me in her car, and every time she'd see me, it would be, Ben, you haven't cleaned your glasses. Here's a cleaning wipe, clean your glasses. So that's that, and the good Jaguar logo. I'm not promoting the new Jaguar. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. That's the classic, the good Jaguar logo back when they made actual cars that people wanted to buy. That's why that's on there, because Gran, that was her dream car, was a Jaguar. I think probably an E-Type, and she would probably be rolling around in her grave looking at what Jaguar's doing to themselves now. But yeah, that's why that's on the car as well.
That's it. Okay, now on to the sister car, which obviously has a bit of a colour change and has a rim change as well.
Yes.
Now, was the rim change deliberate?
Yes. So this was, it's a bit of a bitzer. The front and the bonnet don't match the proposed design, but the entire thing I had to work with was one render, which was a side-on shot. So all I had any clear idea on was how the side looked and how the wing looked. So I got those bits right. So yeah, the red rims were a thing that were tried in 2010. They didn't work. There was also tried a red background. So the red background is because it was tried in inverse of the logo. So the PBF is white with a black outline rather than black with a white outline. They did. I think it was Toll at the time were very insistent that you do a white Toll logo with a black outline. I think it was only very late in the process that Toll actually relented and switched, which made it look a little better. And there is also a lot less detail in the line and helmet at the back. There's no drop shadow, and we lose a couple extra little bits of detail down there as well. So it's a bit of a simpler version of the 2010 car.
Yeah, so I want to have a look at your car again just very quickly, because I wanted to double check something. So you've gone with the white rims with the red brake calipers, and the other car is the red rims with the red brake calipers.
It is. If I could paint brake calipers, I'd do something different. And I know I've just gone back against what I was saying a little while ago.
Yeah,
this wasn't a. I didn't look at it in game. I went, this is what's done on the car I'm basing it on.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing with this car.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, for me the red rims don't work.
Yeah, and look,
I was making my necking motions at the thing. Can I neck myself, please?
Yeah, and look, to be fair, you probably agreed with most of the sponsors involved with the car in 2010 because they didn't end up using the red rims.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, and the rest of it's basically the same. I mean, this one's a little bit better with the Adelaide South Australia sort of being in a bit more of an appropriate spot and lifted a little bit as well, so it's off the bottom. So that actually works a little bit better for those cars.
It's missing the little white extra bit of detail that was above the Jaguar, which is why it's able to be moved up.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what the difference from the other car.
And the ADL 500 in lieu of the cleaning, the Kobayashi Pharmaceutical one.
Kobayashi
well.
Pharmaceutical, yep.
Yeah. No, Walshy, we're not having another rim pole. We've already had a rim pole. You failed. Glenn Miles, SDS Racing. Now, I tell you what, this is, I think, the first time I've ever seen Glenn drive a Holden. He's been driving Fords for his whole entire life, as far as I was aware. I'd never seen him drive a Holden before.
He drove a Nissan in 2019, a Speedwater, but he drove
the
a Holden
Speedwater
once. It was when he and I shared at Bathurst.
There you go.
But to be fair, he drove the car more than I did because I was, hand up, I was a little worried at the time that Glenn would be the one to ruin the car. So I panicked. I panicked, but I was worried the entire stint. He did it flawlessly. I got in the car, was not in the headspace, wiped it out within 5 laps. So, full on me. But yeah, this is the first time Glenn's running a Holden and for a full season livery.
Yeah. Well,
and this is originally Rossi's work for 2020. I then repurposed it for John in 2023 that I think he used once, and then we've retooled that livery again the third time with a colour change for Walshy this time around.
Yeah, for
Glenn.
Yeah, well, the first thing that stands out is it's very bright, actually. It's a very bright car. 69 logo on the side. Does interfere with the banner a little bit. Like the fact it's got a drop shadow on it. It's nice, but yeah, just need to be a bit more proportionate for where the windscreen banner was. Just cut back to the 2 sponsors either side. The motel doesn't probably need to be that far back, but I think if I flip around to the other side, I can probably see why. Because it's to do with the exhaust.
Same positioning.
So that makes a bit of sense. The Ryzen logo just is a bit too close to the yellow here.
Probably big.
That needs to be smaller so it doesn't hit the yellow. Spitwater's a nod to the Nissan from before. Yeah, so now this is a little bit more appropriate with where the brake ducting is. You've actually moved the logo inboard towards the centre of the car, so you can actually see the logo when you're taking some angled shots, like some things like that. You can actually see it, which is good. Although that being said, one's a little bit over the edge of the thing. Like what do we say? And what do they say in Sesame Street? One of these things is not like the other. So yeah, one brake duct is a bit too thin, so that's a bit.
To be fair, I'm not sure how original those logos are. They might predate back to the very first car. This is not me trying to throw Rossi under the bus, but these might predate to Rossi's work rather than mine.
I also have noticed the paint work. Have a look at this here, where it goes zigs and then it zags. And
I believe that is intentional design decision.
Yeah, it looks. I know it might be intentional, but it looks out of place with the rest of the lines on the bonnet.
I think it'll be something that probably makes more sense on the VE that it comes from.
Probably
2007 or 2008 HSV DT.
Yeah, and this doesn't line up here as well. That's overlapping a bit more there with the headlights. It's a little bit better on that side, but it's still not perfect. But yeah, that's a little bit of thing there. And did I notice? I was trying to get it lined up here. Oh, the interior side of that's just the interior side of the brake ducting there.
Yeah.
FKN Roadie and Associates, nice touch. Good logo size on the wing mirrors. What else have we got? We go around to the back. Yep, petroleum. What was the thought? Is that the Adobe logo?
No, that's the Alitalia logo.
Alitalia, okay.
Yes.
I was just trying to work out where that goes. That logo looks very oddly placed.
It's because
it works on that side.
The power size for that side, it's horrendous. The other side
does not work on that side. Yeah, that's a fail.
It was the last spot I had to sponsor. I'm just like, what's on my list that I haven't used yet? And yeah, I probably I'm not sure what else could have used in its place, but something would have been better than that.
And this is a bit overboard on the back. The Ryzens are too big, and the Recaro's too big.
Yeah.
That's my take on those ones there. The rest of it's actually fairly good on a lot of things. Like the top of the car's actually okay, but yeah, there's definitely a few styling cues on here that need a little bit of a second thought. All right, last of the Holdens in Super 3. We are getting to the end of this, guys, I promise. Mark Davey, the THR Sim Sports. We didn't see a lot of Mark last year, so it'd be good to have Mark back if he can actually get going with that one. So, 077 media on the front corners. Okay, left a bit of room here on the front for something that could have gone there quite nicely. THR Sim Sports on the bonnet. This is sort of along the same sort of lines as the Tim Sullivan car and the Mustangs that we saw as well. Very, very bright. Left a bit of real estate on the table. And there's a few things there that could have been done. And the back is very plain, actually. You could actually be, if you follow in this car, you could be mistaken for thinking that it's an unpainted livery.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if they customise the temp car, you can almost think you're following a temp car around.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very, very, very plain. Last minute one in there, but yeah, look, at least it's something. You still got your 3 alts there to go as well, but yeah, definitely along the same lines as the Tim Sullivan car. Some room for improvement. We wait with bated breath.
Absolutely.
All right, 3 Nissans. And that's it. So one of them is a slight variance of last year with the team name Enforker, powered by Beyond Racing. So this is Damien Hitter. So Damo has just opted to retain his livery from last year, which is a car that was run by in the Beyond Racing colours way back in the development series days when the Nissans were part of the Super 2 field before they got passed down in the generational change. And I think this one was the sister car to the Luke Yeager car, the orange one from last year, if you remember seeing that one. So,
yep.
I can't remember when this car was painted. I'm going to guess it was 2022, I think. Would have been when it was painted originally. So it's been a while.
Yeah, probably goes back a while. Yeah, I think it predates. I think it goes back to the Kiwi Sim Sports days.
Yeah, back in the day, I think you're probably right. Oh, nice touch. It is a Datsun at heart. It breaks my heart to see the Nissans after what they're going through as well in the real world. You know, we were looking at a Nissan for my wife's new car, which she actually picked up today. She didn't buy a Nissan, by the way. She bought a Hyundai. And it just saddens me to see that Nissan's going through so much headache with financial worries and stuff as well. It just doesn't make them a safe bet to buy anymore. You don't know what's going to be around the corner. So, you know, we always see a Nissan and it's sort of like, oh, some of the cars are really, really good. Apart from that, like this car, similar logos to what we've seen on a couple of the other cars. Good proportion size. And the rear wing on the Nissan was obviously the real issue with these because it's a lot smaller area to work with compared to the Mustang or the FGX or any of those other ones where the wing end plates are a lot a lot bigger on those cars. And of course, remember for a long time in the very first year, the Nissan was actually a T style wing with the centre mount wing. So that's changed over the years. The power base is just getting a little bit too close to the edge. Slightly smaller would have been nicer. Little bit more appropriate on the top. So if I spin that around there, you can see that that's got more appropriate sizing and a little bit more real estate around the edges. That's what it needed on the bottom side.
I just realised, I think the roof outlines when this car was from, because this was KSS Infinity and Beyond. I remember the team name now.
Yes, there it is. Correct. Absolutely right.
I think this was 2022 or 2021.
Yeah, so one of those 2 years. So yeah, this is the car that'll be the only Nissan from the Kiwis that's going to be tackling this year. Luke Yeager didn't put a registration one in, so I think he's had some travel plans and other bits and pieces going on in his real world, so that makes sense. And then we have the Yojunyon Motorsport Hachiju Hachi, the 44 and the 88. So of course, the 44 is Melody Smith, the 88 being Angus Wells. So this is a retention of the car from last year.
There are some small tweaks, but it is essentially last year's car. Yes.
Yes, and the one thing that stood out to a lot of people is they actually went to the effort of doing like a wallpapered print for the car that's sort of embedded into the pink for Melody, so that kind of worked. The one thing I actually did see there is obviously the imagery on the pillar there. It is a little bit difficult to fit that into that particular gap, and I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep it vertical, so when you're standing on the against the car like that and it's flat, it's actually standing in a proper aligned position like this. But it's a very difficult fine line thing to do. I actually think you had to do. It would have looked strange if it was angled to go along with the actual borders there. I actually think it looks better without it. It probably would have been better served going somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Either that or having a character, and Melody has actually designed that character. I believe a lot of the characters she's used herself.
Yes.
Designing maybe like an A-frame pose, or maybe something that actually would work for taking up a space that narrows, but also a space that leans slightly. You could maybe set them up leaning up against a wall or something, and that would work nicely for that spot.
Too many sponsors on the sill. Way too many sponsors on the sill. Needs to be pared back. 4 is enough. Especially because yes, you have got that exhaust that you need to be considered with there. That this sponsor down in the bottom in the front corner here, the Bang Dreams. It's just it's lost. It's like you can't read that properly from there. So it needs to be taken away and cut off one of these other sponsors and move them around. Like the fact you've have given a little bit of thought to the pillars on the cars, so that was a good idea, good placement of at least just for the team name and everything else underneath it. How's the proportion sizing for the Nissan underneath? It's actually a little bit too tall. It really needs to just come down a little bit so it's a bit more centered.
Yeah, it might have, that might have been a change from last, because this is a modified version of last year's livery.
Yeah.
Might have been a change from last year's. Maybe Lewis thought it was a bit too far tucked under, because that is a common thing to end up doing with the rear, when you just tuck them a bit too far under, center them, and you can't read them. It's come up, which is good. I think it's just come a bit too far, and you need to push it back down a little bit.
Yeah, the rest of the proportion sizing on the logos is actually quite good with how that's all been done. So listened, it's got nice gaps around here. Nicely done there. They line up pretty well on either side. Mobile One's in a good spot. Nismo's in a good spot. So most of the proportion sizing from the door, the A pillar forward is good. The sill is just the sill lets the car down on both sides.
Yeah. And
that logo in the middle. Now these cars do actually have some alternates, which we will take a look at after we look at the final car, which is the Angus Wells car. Swapping from a Holden to a Nissan for this year. Oh wow! Okay. I wasn't expecting this.
I think, and I'll probably be corrected, I think the base for this is almost one of the old Primeras. The side gives me heavy Primera. Like, it doesn't have the helmet, but it's giving me very, very, very much vibes to that era of Nissan.
Yeah. Again, with the sills, need to cut sponsors back. There's too many sponsors on the sills. Is that actually the correct Vodafone colour? Because it looks very similar to the same colour that was on the 888 cars back in the day. So it looks like it's a bit more of an orangey tinge. Yeah, it looks more like it has a bit more of a tinge.
Yeah, I was going to say, like we had Vodafone on the Pixel cars a few years ago, and they used different red, but they probably used the more correct red. It definitely looks like a period, like a 888 red. Well, yeah, so yeah, that probably is the correct red for period, or pretty close to it.
Pretty close to it. Same thing again with the sponsors on the front, mostly good. Probably would have just made that Red Bull circle, just make it a bit smaller, just to pull it away from the edges a little bit, but otherwise it's not far away. The G-Zox one is in the same spot as the other one. What else have we got? Red Bull on the rear, just make those ones a little bit smaller as well. The Red Bull actually fits onto the rear logos on the rear end plates there quite nicely.
Yes.
That Mobile One probably shouldn't be there. I think that's probably a bit lost. It's actually spilling over. You can actually see it there. It's actually starting to just spill over onto the top side of the C pillar on the car.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the problem is you can't really make it too much smaller because then it
No.
risks become unreadable. Yeah, it's really like with that much stripe in there, you've really not left much about a sponsor there.
What I would have done, because you've got so much Red Bull branding already on the car, like 4 corners of it, I probably would have even considered taking the Mobil 1 and putting it in place of the Red Bull on the rear plate there, or I would have taken the G-Zox away and put them up there. That probably would have been a nice touch. This Vodafone's actually a little bit, it's probably just a little bit too low, but I think that might be just the way the bumper potentially contours, is it? No, not quite. I'm mistaken there. So those 2 logos in the corners probably just can stay where they are, but just lift the Vodafone logo just a little bit, like, only needs to be bottom of the V, probably just needs to be where the mouse is right now, the tip of the mouse point, just so, because you've got all this real estate up here, and it's just, it's very, very obvious. Everything else, because you can see here, if you look at the Vodafone on the rear wing at the very, if I go around to the top side here, just pull it down, hopefully you can see it, you can just see the proportion is the V and the rest of the line is actually relatively close to centered on the actual Vodafone logo as well. So you've got the circle, and then you've got the text that just sort of goes from the center radiating out. If you look at it from the front as well, the front I get you had to deal with because of where it was. You want to try and make it as big as possible, but realistically the bottom of the V should have been there, the top of the V should have been about there, and same on the rear, because it just doesn't line up with the logo. Otherwise, see, on the side here it's perfect. Like, you needed to maintain where that was relative to the rest of the logo to make it work. Oh, and guys, I don't know how many times I've said it tonight, if you're going to do this and you're going to overlap the door handles, paint the door handles, please, just so it actually, it looks nice. We are going to go and have a look. They have got a cut. These are, again, a couple that did submit some alternate liveries to run with. So I think Melody submitted, at least an Alt 1, which, again, same sort of car you saw from last year. I think probably, again, with a couple of small tweaks. But, again, those that would have been racing last year and watched the broadcast would have seen this car in this relative guise. And the other sister car has an Alt 1 as well. And we'll get that one up. And this one is a rather interesting look as well. Now, I'm not sure if you know the backstory on this one, Rody.
I don't know the backstory, but I recognise the livery. It's a JGTC Skyline livery. I'm trying to remember which one. I think it's R34. I recognise the livery though. I guarantee that people in the chat are going to recognise it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the JGTC liveries, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And gone with some retro schemes on some of these as well. Some retro Vodafones, like a type of a livery and things like that. The Yojon Yon Motorsport there, I don't like that. That's
I think
trying to follow the contour. I get it, trying to follow the contour, but it's gotten narrower. So no. Termo correct you. It's an R31.
Okay. Thank you, Tomo.
Yeah. No, delete the Yojon Yon Motorsport and just put it like across the, maybe put it somewhere on the rear bumper or on the rear wing or something like that. That's a bit small.
Yeah, probably basing it off of the IRL design.
Yeah, that's it. Melody also has an Alt 2 as well. She's been busy. And I think we saw this one last year too, didn't we?
Yes, we did. So this is probably another slight retooling from last year.
All right. Slight retooling from last year. Oh, got the sponsors again. Yep. So again, the sills are being very heavily used. But I think even Lewis has picked this up in a couple of years running, and it's been a common theme. This the signboard on the side here is just, I think it's just a little bit too low. Just lift that up just a little bit. And at the same time you do that, lift the G-Zox logo up a bit and just make the top of the G and the top of this the same height, and probably put them around about here, just at the bottom, maybe about a mouse, three-quarters of a mouse height to there would have been a little bit more appropriate, just to get it a little bit away from the bottom from the top of the sill. All right, well, that's all of it. So that's 30 drivers and a handful of alternate liveries as well. So really, really good to see that majority of people have put in the effort, and the series is a week away from starting. Now, a few people are telling us we need to double down and do a livery roast for the supercars liveries as well, Rhodey. I don't know how you feel about that. I mean, I'm game, but we're going to have to do it probably on a Saturday night or something like that.
It'll have to be Saturday or a Sunday. It'll be after we've got Dev Series round 1.
That's right.
First.
That's right. So that's good. So we will look to do that depending on how things go. I don't know. Not sure what my favourite. I don't have a favourite livery, I guess, out of this one. It's going to take me a while for I think a few things to sink in, but we will wait and see what happens with all of that. But everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing as many of you on track as possible over the next 2 weeks, whether you're racing in Dev or racing in Maine or racing in both. Stay safe, especially for those of you up in Queensland, and we will see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye for now.